Hey everyone, so in this video we are looking at how to make a game like the watermelon game. This is the second video in the series. The first one we created the prefabs, and in the second one we're going to show you how to spawn, how to instantiate those prefabs. So a couple things before we get started. One, I put the prefabs into their own folder. You don't have to, but I did it simply for organizational purposes. It makes it easier to differentiate them from the images, the PNGs, and also this way you can select them all at once. Second of all, I tweaked some of the sizes. The grapes were too big, so I made them slightly smaller, and the strawberry was a little bit too big, so I made that slightly smaller. Third, what we need to do is we're going to select these all. You click on the first one, hold shift, click on the last one, and see gravity scale, we're going to set that to 0 because at the end of the last video, I believe I left it at 1. So we're going to set it to 0. I'll explain why later. Don't really want to jump ahead, but trust me, when we instantiate the object, we want gravity scale to be 0. Okay, third, I created a script which I am currently not using, but I did it so a little bit less typing. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click, create C#, and I called it FruitCon. And so what we're going to do is we're now going to apply it to these all at the same time. So again, it's just click, shift, click the last one, add component, scripts, and there it is, FruitCon. Okay, so I believe that catches us up to what I did in between videos. Okay, so now let's actually get into the coding. So what we want is we want to be able to press a button. We're going to use the space button. You can use whatever you want, but we're going to use the space button. That will cause the fruit to drop. So for a fruit to drop, we're going to need to instantiate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an array, and that array will store the fruits that can be spawned. And then, like I said, you're going to click a space button, and it will drop the fruit. We'll have a randomized statement to determine which fruit is the one that gets spawned. And that's the main gameplay loop. And then we'll only have like one video to go to do the code to check for matches, when the fruits match and what they replace by. And we'll probably, I'll have that one up probably like tomorrow morning. Okay, so let's take a look. We have our cloud. We have our script, CloudCon. And as you can see, I've added 3 lines at the top, and I just remarked them out, so that way there's less typing. Okay, so the first one, public transform square brackets fruit object. This is the array I was just talking about. This will store the fruits that can be spawned. We don't need to put all the fruits in there because they can't all be dropped. These are just the ones that the cloud can drop. Again, this script is attached to the cloud. Static public string spawned yet? No. So static, we need this variable to be available to the fruit. That way when the fruit drops, we'll know to spawn another one. That's why it's called spawned yet. This is what's going to keep you from spawning only one fruit at a This is going to allow you to spawn only one fruit at a time. Because a fruit will spawn, and then this value will change to yes. So the system will stop and say, okay, we won't spawn any more fruits. You drop the fruit, this will change to back to no, and then a new fruit will spawn. So static public string spawned yet no. And yes, this could be a Boolean. I don't like to use Booleans because too many times I've set up a Boolean thinking I only needed 2 states, and then it turns out I needed a third or a fourth state, and you can't use a Boolean for that. So I know some people don't like seeing strings for yes or no, but that's the reason why. It's just too many times I thought I only needed 2 states, I needed a third or a fourth, and then had to kind of rip up my code and fix it. Third thing, static public vector2 cloud XPS. So again, static because this needs to be available to the fruit script. Public, again, because it needs to be available. And vector2. So this is the X and the Y position of the cloud, because what we're going to do is when the fruit is spawned, okay, what will then happen is the fruit will then have its position updated to where the cloud is until it's dropped. And then we don't care where the cloud is. At least that fruit doesn't care where the cloud is. So that makes it easier to keep the fruit lined up with the cloud. Okay, so all this down here was from the last video. And now let's start using this. So public transform fruit object. So now that we've saved this, see how there's a little asterisk there? That tells you this hasn't been saved. So now we save it. So again, the script is attached to the cloud. So when we click on our cloud, we should see, there it is, fruit object. Now, again, we're only going to put the ones here that can be spawned. So let's go to cloud. So, and I don't think this really has to be in order of spawning because it's going to be randomly created anyways. It's going to be randomly selected. So we'll put cherries, strawberry. We will go in order, but like I said, I don't think it's really necessary. That. And actually, let's just do those three because by the time you get up to the orange, they get pretty big anyways. So we'll just spawn those three. And then we will save. Okay. So that gives us our objects that can be spawned. And then what we want to do, so that takes care of using that. Now this, we want to actually spawn the object now. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, I'm not sure if this is called a function or a method. I think it's kind of synonymous in C#. So feel free to put in the comments which one it is, but sorry. Void, and we're going to create our own custom one. So whereas update and start will always run on their own, this will only run if we call it. And we'll just call this spawn fruit. Now, before I type anything in here, so how do you call this? Simple, with that line. So put this in the update section. There. That one line will now wow, sorry, I can't see in the dark. There we go. That one line will now call this. So first thing we need to do is we're going to need to check to see if a fruit has been spawned already. That's what I was saying the purpose of this is. So what we'll do is we'll say if spawned, and be careful when you start naming things because these are very similar. You don't want to choose the wrong one. Double equal sign because it's an if. Oops. Let's try that again. All right, if spawned yet equals no, because we haven't spawned one, then we're going to spawn one. So instantiate. So first of all, you have to say what we're going to instantiate. Well, we're going to instantiate fruit object, and then you need the brackets because you need to indicate which one it is, and it's going to be random. We're going to do random dot range, and there are three, so 0, 1, and 2. But when it comes to integers, this number is inclusive, this one is not. So 0, 1, and 2 will be selected even though you typed in 3. Why? That's just the way it works. If someone has an explanation, feel free to put in the comments, but functionally, that's how integers work. The first number is inclusive, the last one is not. So since we want numbers 0, 1, and 2, we have to put 0 through 3. Okay, so that's which object will be spawned. And then where it's going to be spawned, transform dot position. So transform dot position is the position of the object the script is attached to. The script is attached to the cloud. So this is saying the object where this is going to the position where this is going to be instantiated is the position of the cloud. And then the rotation. Now I got lucky here because since I did not put this into a variable, this number is basically not remembered by the system. So if I do this and I say, well, we're just going to use the rotation of the object spawned, this would actually generate another random number, and we don't want that. The good news is all the objects have the same rotation, so it doesn't matter which one I use. So we can just use rotation of 0. There you go. There's your typical instantiate statement. What's being instantiated, where it's being instantiated, and the rotation of the object that you're instantiating. We already put the line in here to call this. And now what we need to do is we need to change this variable, because that's the whole point of the variable, to yes. That we have indeed spawned one. Whoops. We have indeed We have indeed spawned one. If we don't change that to yes, then it'll keep spawning over and over and over again. So we'll save that. Okay, so we created the array and we put the fruits into it. We check to see if this is set to no, and if it's not, then we instantiate. This we're going to use in a minute. So I think for now, that's all we want at the moment. I believe we'll come back to modify that in a few minutes. This is actually like my third or fourth take. I kept messing up. That's why I started to type a few things out. Okay, so in the script, yes, there's technically something here, but we're just going to run through it now. So in the fruit script, which you've attached to all the fruit prefabs, private string in the cloud is equal to yes. What this is going to do is, as long as this is set to yes, then the position will move to wherever the cloud is. So we're kind of cheating. We're just saying, you know something, wherever the cloud is, move the fruit to it. Unless it's been dropped, then don't do that. So we'll say if in the cloud is equal to yes, then do something. Well, we're going to change its position. So get component. Yes, I know you're not supposed to call get component in the update section. You're supposed to create variables. Like I said, I tried to do this as easy to explain as possible, as simply as possible. I'm not worried about performance. We can always go back at the end of the series and do like an optimization review. Because remember, these tutorials are generally spent, are really intended for like newer people. So get component, and which component we want? Transform. And then we want dot position. And we're going to set that to the cloud con dot vector 2. And so that was that cloud? Yeah. And the reason why it's cloud X position is I goofed in an earlier version. I was grabbing just the X position, and then I realized from a coding point of view, I might as well just grab the X and Y. So actually turn it into a vector 2. Okay, so that now encompasses all of this. We created our array and we populated it with the fruits. We used the spawn variable to decide if we need to spawn one, and we did, and a variable to grab the position of the cloud, which we have not set it to. So we declared the variable, but we haven't actually used it. So we'll just do that in the update section. Cloud x position equals to transform dot position. And again, transform dot position is the position of the object that the script is attached to. Let's run it here, and then we'll just add the last bit of code for the place for the dropping of the fruit, because that's where we have to rewrite a little bit of this. Okay, so I'm running it. We already had the left and right movement. As you can see, just one fruit spawned, and it does indeed move with the cloud. Okay, so now we just need the fruit to drop. So what we can do is in the fruit section, we're going to say, let's check for the space key. So if input dot get key. Now, unlike the other code that we did where we put get key because we wanted ongoing checks, we're going to do get key down because we only want a single check. We don't want to do a rapid firing of fruit. We want to drop just one, so space. So if input.get key down, not get key, and then we're checking for the space. And if so, remember how I said that we set the gravity scale to 0? So here we're going to set the gravity scale back to 1. So get component, rigid body, gravity scale equals, whoop, sorry, gravity, why does it use, hang on just a second. ID10T issue. I know what I did wrong. See how I typed rigid body? It's not rigid body. It's rigid body 2D. And now it should say gravity scale. Because that's one of the differences between 2D and 3D. In 2D, on an item by item basis, you can say what the gravity scale is. In the 3D environment, you have to say use gravity yay or nay. I don't know if there's really a great way to change gravity on an object by object basis in 3D. I'm sure you can fake it, but that's one of the main differences. Because if you notice, when it was rigid body 3D, it was saying use gravity yay or nay. Here it's actually letting you set the gravity scale. And we're going to set it to 1. So teachable moment. So we save that, and now, okay, so what that's going to do is that's going to drop the object, but a new one will not spawn. But let's run this just so you see that. It did not work. What did I do wrong? So if input.getKey space get component rigid body 2D gravity scale is equal to 1. Oh, another ID10T issue. So how we did the in the clouds, well, this keeps applying the position. So we even said that we don't want to apply the position once we dropped it. So in the clouds equals no. Sorry about that. That's one of the problems with programming ahead of time is you forget that you haven't done these things. Okay, so now that should work. Again, it verifies that these checks really need to be done. I know that when I was first learning, I often thought things were overcoded. Well, seeing me make these mistakes, you know, it's not overcoded, that you do have to do that. And there we go. All right, so now we just need another one to be spawned. And we already have really the coding for that because we did this, is spawned yet. So what we want to do is that we want spawned yet to be set to no. That way it spawns another object. The only problem is these fruits are solid, and so if we immediately spawn another one, it'll bump into it. So we really need a brief delay to keep that from happening. So do we want to... Okay, I think we'll just, what we'll do is we'll move this to an IE numerator. So we said in the cloud is equal to no, and then we will say that cloud con dot spawned yet is equal to no. And then we'll come here, and what we can do, I think we can just check. Let's just do IE numerator and spawn timer yield return new. Wait 4 seconds. So we'll wait for 3/4 of a second. And since it's a decimal, we have to put the F so it knows it's a float, and then so right now what we need to do is we'll put the spawn itself in here, and then oops, sorry about that. And then we'll do, I think I did this slightly cleaner on a previous version, but like I said, I kept making mistakes, so sorry if this isn't quite as fluid as it should be. So start coroutine, and this is spawn timer. I think that will do it. Like I said, I think I did this slightly differently in another take, but all right, we'll run this. So we got the fruit. So there's a slight delay because we put that into place. We drop it, and sure enough, there's another fruit. Okay, so not ideal, but again, this is just about the beginning. There's no checking yet for the to see if you're hitting things that are like. We'll save that for the next video. So, okay, I think that's it for this one. I think this one's probably dragged on a bit longer than really what I meant to, but there you go. So now we have the ability to spawn a fruit. We have the ability to drop a fruit, spawns another random fruit, and that's about it. And like I said, the next video we will look to see how to check for combinations. And if you recall at the end of the last video, I said it was going to be about 45 minutes of coding. Well, we're probably about halfway there. It's actually a very, very simple game. If you want to clean up the UI, devil's in the details, and that will probably add a few hours, but I probably won't go that far. We're just doing the broad strokes. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. Hope you found this interesting, and please do enjoy the rest of your day.